I am done letting you walk all over me. This is where it stops, right here, right now.
I used to think the proudest moment of my life would be my son's college graduation. Turns out, it was the moment right before everything fell apart. If you've ever waited years for a single day to prove all your sacrifices meant something, you'll understand why I was standing there, smiling like an idiot, clutching my phone with sweaty hands, ready to take 100 blurry photos I'd probably never delete. The campus was packed. Families everywhere. Mothers fixing collars, fathers adjusting ties, grandparents wiping their eyes before anything emotional even happened. I blended right in. Except for one thing. My suit was old. Not embarrassingly old, just tired. The kind of suit you buy once because you have to, not because you want to. I remember thinking, next paycheck, I'll finally replace it. Funny how the brain still plans for the future, even when it's about to be erased. When my son's name was called, I stood up so fast my knee cracked. Didn't care. I clapped louder than anyone around me. I even shouted his name once, then stopped myself, realizing no one else was doing that. He didn't look at me, but I told myself he was just nervous. Big day, big stage. I watched him walk across that platform, shake hands, take the diploma. 4 years of tuition, countless nights of overtime, missed vacations, meals I skipped without mentioning why. All of it flashed through my head in under 10 seconds. And in that moment, I felt something close to peace. After the ceremony, people spilled out onto the lawn. Cameras clicked, hugs everywhere. I spotted my son near the edge of the crowd and made my way toward him, already rehearsing what I'd say. Proud of you. Simple enough. But when I reached him, he didn't smile, didn't hug me. He just handed me an envelope. At first, I thought it was a thank you note, or maybe a photo from when he was little, something sentimental. My hands actually shook a bit as I took it. "Read it later," he said. His voice was flat. I looked down at the envelope. Written on the front, in his handwriting, were the words, "Dad, I'm not your son." I laughed. Just a breathy, confused laugh. "Very funny," I said. "What is this?" He didn't answer. He just nodded once, like he was done with a task he'd been putting off. People kept walking past us. Someone nearby popped a champagne bottle. A kid ran by waving a balloon. Life was moving forward at full speed, completely unaware that mine had just stopped. I slipped the envelope into my jacket instead of opening it right there. Not because I was calm, but because some part of me still believed this was a misunderstanding, a bad joke, a dramatic way to start a conversation. At that moment, I had no idea this wasn't just bad news. It was the opening scene of something that felt less like a family drama and more like a revenge story I never asked to be part of. And I was still smiling when he walked away. I didn't open the envelope right away. I don't know why. Maybe it was denial. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe it was the simple hope that if I waited long enough, the words on the front would somehow stop being true. I followed the crowd toward the parking lot, still holding the envelope like it might bite me. People were laughing, calling out to their kids, making dinner plans. Someone bumped into my shoulder and apologized. I nodded, smiling out of habit, even though my ears were ringing. I sat in my car for a long time before starting the engine. The envelope rested on the passenger seat, perfectly still. Too clean, too intentional. This wasn't something scribbled in anger. This was planned. Have you ever had one of those moments where you already know something is going to hurt, but you open it anyway, just to be sure? Yeah, that was me. I tore it open slowly. Inside was a single folded sheet at first. A printed document, black and white, clean font, official looking. I didn't need to read the title to understand what it was. A DNA test. My name was there. His name was there. And right below it, in words that felt far too calm for what they meant, probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at that number longer than I should have. 0. Not unlikely. Not low. Just gone. I leaned back in the seat and laughed again. Not because it was funny, but because my brain didn't know what else to do. I'd spent years teaching myself how to stay calm under pressure. Missed bills, sick days, late nights, but no one teaches you how to react when biology rewrites your life in one sentence. Strangely enough, my first thought wasn't anger. It was relief. Not because he wasn't mine, but because suddenly, so many little things made sense. The distance, the way he pulled away in high school, how he stopped calling unless he needed something. I told myself it was just age, just independence. I folded the paper back up. So what, I thought. I still raised him. That had to count for something, right? I drove home on autopilot, barely remembering the turns. Once inside, I sat at the kitchen table and took the paper out again, this time actually reading every line, as if a typo might jump out and apologize. That's when I noticed there was something else inside the envelope. A second piece of paper, smaller, folded once. No letterhead, just handwriting. His handwriting. My chest tightened. Not in panic, more like a slow, sinking pressure. The kind you feel when you already sense the ground giving way beneath your feet, but you haven't fallen yet. I didn't open it right away. I made coffee instead. Stood there waiting for it to brew, staring at nothing. That stupid machine beeped when it was done, cheerful and loud, like it had no idea what kind of moment it was interrupting. I sat back down, took a breath, and unfolded the note. Before I even read a single word, one thought crossed my mind. Quiet, almost hopeful. Maybe this is where he explains. Maybe this is where he tells me I still matter. And for just a second, I believed that might be true. I unfolded the note. It was shorter than I expected. No apology, no hesitation, just words, clean, direct, and devastating in their own quiet way. Dad, I know this is a lot to take in. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this because I needed the truth. You deserve to know, but you also need to understand something. This doesn't change who I am. It just changes who you are to me. I stopped reading. My eyes stayed on that last line like it might move if I stared hard enough. It just changes who you are to me. I had braced myself for anger, for blame, even for guilt. But not that. Not the calm way he said it. Like this was a necessary correction, like I was a misunderstanding that needed clearing up. I kept reading. I appreciate everything you did. I really do. But appreciation doesn't equal obligation. I didn't ask to be raised. I didn't ask you to sacrifice. That was your choice. There it was. That sentence hit harder than the DNA test ever could. I didn't ask you to sacrifice. I folded the letter slowly, carefully, like it might shatter if I moved too fast. My hands weren't shaking. My chest wasn't tight. It was worse than that. I felt erased. Not as a man, not as a father, but as effort, as years, as proof that love meant something. For 22 years, I'd told myself that even if things went wrong, even if we drifted apart, at least one thing would always be true. He would know what I gave up for him. And now he was telling me it didn't count, because he never asked for it.
You got it.
I thought back to the nights I stayed up helping with science projects. The weekends I turned down work so I could sit in bleachers watching him play. The times I chose secondhand furniture so his tuition check wouldn't bounce. All of that boiled down to a technicality. Your choice. I laughed once, a dry sound that surprised even me. The kind of laugh you let out when your brain is desperately trying to protect your heart. I picked up my phone, typed his name, then stopped. What was I supposed to say? That he was wrong? That children don't ask to be raised, but parents don't raise them expecting to be written off like a voluntary subscription? I deleted the draft. Minutes passed, maybe hours, I don't know. Finally, a message came in, from him. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. That's when it sank in. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of inconvenience. The realization settled heavy and cold. Not rage, not grief, something quieter, something final. I placed the DNA test and the letter back into the envelope, slid it into a drawer, closed it. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat there, realizing that the hardest part of being a parent isn't sacrifice. It's discovering that the person you sacrificed for might one day decide it meant nothing. And somehow, you're still expected to understand. The next morning felt normal. That was the strangest part. Sunlight came through the kitchen window. The neighbor's dog barked like it always did. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder I'd forgotten to delete. Graduation dinner, 7 p.m. Life hadn't gotten the memo that mine had shifted overnight. I poured coffee and stood there holding the mug long after it cooled, staring at the counter like it might explain something. There was no dramatic breakdown, no shouting into the void, just a quiet, unsettling stillness. Silence has a way of doing that. It doesn't scream, it settles. I didn't text him back. Not out of spite, not to punish him.
You got it.
I simply didn't trust myself to say the right thing, or worse, to say the wrong one and regret it forever. Instead, I went for a walk. The neighborhood was full of parents, jogging strollers, kids on scooters, a father teaching his daughter how to ride a bike, one hand steadying the seat, the other ready to catch her if she fell. I stopped and watched. He was smiling. So was she. She wobbled, laughed, nearly tipped over, and he caught her. That used to be me. And for the first time, the question hit me hard and clear. If love was my choice, when did it stop being worth anything? Back home, I opened the drawer again. The envelope sat where I'd left it, like it hadn't already rewritten my understanding of fatherhood. I pulled it out and spread the papers across the table. The DNA test, the letter, the envelope itself. That's when something shifted. Not anger, clarity. I realized I'd been reacting to his words as if they were a verdict, as if his interpretation was the final one. But gratitude, or the lack of it, doesn't get to decide the value of what was given. He said he didn't ask to be raised. That was true. But I didn't ask for permission to love him either. And that mattered. For the first time since graduation day, I let myself feel something solid beneath the hurt. Not rage, not revenge, but resolve. A quiet understanding that what I'd given wasn't invalid just because someone refused to acknowledge it. Still, that didn't mean there were no consequences. I sat down and made a list. Not dramatic, not emotional, just facts. Money spent, time given, choices made. Years don't disappear because someone reframes them. I wasn't planning anything yet. I wasn't calling lawyers or confronting anyone. But I stopped pretending that silence was the same thing as acceptance. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from him. "Are you okay?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back,
That's it. Keep
"I'm
pedaling.
taking some
You got it.
time." 3 words.
I'm doing it by myself.
Honest, controlled, final, for now. I set the phone face down. Whatever came next wouldn't be fueled by anger. It wouldn't be loud or messy. It would be deliberate. Because being denied gratitude hurts. But being dismissed as if your sacrifice never mattered, that changes something in you. And once it changes, you don't go back to who you were before. I didn't wake up that morning thinking I was going to do anything drastic. There was no dramatic music in my head, no speech rehearsed in the shower. Just a quiet certainty that sitting still wasn't an option anymore. When someone tells you,
I am
calmly,
done letting you
politely,
walk all over me.
that what you
This
gave
is
doesn't
where it
count,
stops, right
you're
here,
left with a choice.
right now.
You can swallow it and shrink, or you can stand up and decide that your life doesn't need their validation to be real. I chose the second. I went through old files that afternoon, not out of bitterness, but because I needed to see my own history clearly, without nostalgia softening the edges. Tuition receipts, school emails, medical bills, summer camp invoices. Notes I'd written to myself about working overtime that month just until things stabilize. They never did. But I made it work. I wasn't building a case yet. I was building perspective. Every line item told the same story. Consistency, presence, choice. And that's when it hit me. What hurt the most wasn't the money, or even the DNA test. It was the implication that my role in his life had been optional, replaceable, convenient. Like I'd been a placeholder until the truth arrived. That night, I made one phone call. Not to him, to an old friend, someone who knew me long before I became Dad. He listened without interrupting as I explained everything. The test, the letter, the line that wouldn't leave my head. "I didn't ask you to sacrifice." When I finished, there was a pause. Then he said, "You know that's not how life works, right?" I laughed
I'm doing
softly.
it by myself.
"I know." "You don't ask for sacrifice," he continued. "You recognize it. And when you don't, that says more about you than the person who gave it." That conversation didn't fix anything, but it grounded me. I wasn't crazy for feeling erased. The next day, I ran into someone unexpected at the grocery store, a woman I recognized instantly, his mother. She froze when she saw me. I could tell she'd been avoiding this moment for years, even if she didn't know why. "Hi," she said, forcing a smile. "I heard about the graduation." "So did I replied. There was an
I am
awkward
done
silence.
letting you walk
Then
all
she
over me.
sighed.
This
"He
is where
told
it
you,
stops,
didn't he?"
Right here, right
"Yes."
now.
She nodded, eyes dropping to the floor. I always wondered when it would come out. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement of what it had cost me. Just relief that the secret wasn't hers to carry anymore. And in that moment, something became very clear. This wasn't just about a son who felt entitled to redefine the past. This was about two people who had benefited from my sacrifice without ever intending to honor it. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "I won't pretend this didn't matter." She looked up, startled. And for the first time since all of this began, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. I walked away before she could respond. I wasn't seeking revenge, not yet. But I was done being invisible in my own story. And once you stop accepting erasure, people who've grown comfortable dismissing you start to get very nervous. I didn't plan the meeting, it just happened. A week after I ran into his mother at the grocery store, my phone rang. His name lit up the screen. No warning, no text beforehand. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," he said. His voice was steady, too steady. "Mom said you two ran into each other." "We did."
That's it. Keep pedaling.
Another
You got it.
pause. He cleared his throat.
I'm doing it by myself.
"I think we should talk. In person." I agreed. We met at a small cafe halfway between our places. Neutral ground. The kind of place where conversations either end quietly or change everything. He was already there when I arrived, sitting straight, hands folded like this was a business meeting. He stood up when he saw me, then hesitated, unsure whether to hug me. He didn't. That told me everything. We sat down, ordered coffee we barely touched. "I don't want this to turn into a fight," he said quickly. "I just want us to be honest." "I've been honest my whole life," I replied.
I
But
am
go
done
ahead.
letting you walk all
He
over me.
exhaled.
This is where
"I
it
feel like
stops,
you're
right
taking
here,
this personally."
right now.
I almost smiled. "Of course I am," I said. "It was personal." "That's not what I meant," he said, frustration creeping in. "I mean, you're acting like I owe you something." There it was. The sentence I'd been bracing for. "I'm not saying you didn't do a lot," he continued. "You did. But you chose that. And now it feels like you're holding it over my head." I leaned back in my chair, studying him. Not angry, just curious. "Let me ask you something," I said calmly. "If I had walked away when things got hard, if I'd decided I didn't choose that anymore, what would your life look like?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm not asking to be thanked every day," I continued. "I'm asking you not to erase what I gave just because it makes things simpler for you now." "That's not fair," he said. I nodded. Raising a child rarely is. For the first time, his confidence cracked. Just a little. "I'm trying to figure out who I am," he said quietly. "And this complicates things." "I understand that," I said. "What I don't understand is why simplifying your story requires pretending I didn't matter." Silence stretched between us. Then he said it,
That's it. Keep
the
pedaling.
thing that
You got it.
confirmed everything. "I just don't see why this has to define us." I looked him straight in the eye. "It doesn't define you," I said. "It defines me. And you don't get to decide that it doesn't." He stared at his coffee for a brief moment. Right then, the barista dropped a tray behind the counter. Cups shattered. Everyone turned. Someone laughed nervously. He flinched. I didn't. Because some messes are louder than others, and some truths don't need sound to land. "I'm not here to punish you," I said, standing up. "But I won't accept being rewritten out of your life to make things easier." I left money on the table and walked out. Behind me, he didn't follow. Not yet.